All right, man. Peace. So, NBA superstar and NBA Finals MVP Kevin Durant, he recently made some rather inflammatory statements regarding Under Armour, who, as we know, is a sports apparel company that is endorsed by Kevin Durant's teammate Steph Curry. I find it very strange that lately a lot of the NBA champion MVPs or the most popular players on the NBA championship teams, they tend to start to really get to feeling themselves in the off season after they win a championship. They start to make a lot of very strange and out there statements. Two off seasons ago, you had LeBron James, who decided that he was going to levy some volleys at Michael Jordan, trying to claim that Jordan owed a lot of the championships to some of the role players on the team, like Steve Kerr or John Paxson. It was LeBron's very, very vain and silly attempt to apply a curve in the judging of the legacies of him as opposed to Jordan. It was while he was believing that he actually had a chance to catch Jordan. And now we see Kevin Durant doing something that I think is even more foolish. He's speaking very flagrantly about the corporation, the main corporation that endorses his teammate, that being Steph Curry and Under Armour. So they're going to talk about it. Of course, I'm going to chime in. Let's see what happens.
Happy Independence Day, KD. Speak for yourself starts now.
Today's Warriors Day. Welcome, Kevin Durant. Happy 4th of July, but it's Warriors Day.
Under Armour owned this Warriors team. I mean, it was understood. Curry has the ball in his hands. He's the leading scorer. He's the unanimous MVP. It's now, arguably, a 50-50 leaning Nike team.
I think Nike feels like getting this guy titles as soon as possible and getting him some of the love that was headed Steph's way as soon as possible is good for Nike and undercuts Under Armour.
And you know what's funny? They made such a big deal when Kevin Durant left OKC about his relationship with Russell Westbrook. I'm sure that many of the top executives at Nike who had Kevin Durant's ear told him, look, you should go to Golden State. You have a chance to take over that team. You have a chance to win championships. You have a chance to make your brand much more marketable. We're living in an age now where, you know, people are not as judgmental about athletes making these type of moves. They're going to act very shocked and incensed at first, but after you win it, they'll get over it. Look at what happened with LeBron. Curry is he's a rather submissive dude. He's not very territorial. You can go there and slowly but surely take over. And I think that Durant, with the statements that he made about Under Armour, has shown a certain lack of respect for Curry. And I think that he believes that Curry's not going to say anything back. I think that that's a very dangerous sentiment to put out there on a team where you know that you have a couple of rival sports apparel corporations. Now, I did a video a while back. It was around the time that all of these black athletes were trying to act woke. And I stated explicitly in regards to Steph Curry that, you know, because it was around the time that it was revealed that the one of the major bigwigs at Under Armour, Kevin Plank, he was closely associated with Donald Trump, and Steph Curry felt the need to come out and say that he would leave Under Armour if he felt like they were pushing agendas that were against his sensibilities. I stated that it's possible that Steph Curry, with the unpopularity of his shoe, was trying to create a pretext to leave in case, you know, they mutually decide to part ways. So it's going to be very interesting to see how Steph Curry responds, or if he responds, to what Durant has stated.
You cannot deny today, bad day for Under Armour. Do you think Kevin Plank today at Under Armour is celebrating? Phil Knight is.
Welcome back. We're joined now by Fox NBA analyst Jim Jackson and the founder of the Big League, Jason McIntyre. Let's move to the NBA and Kevin Durant. The Warriors star made waves with some harsh words about LeBron James last week, and this week had some even harsher words for Steph Curry's shoe brand, Under Armour, during a discussion with Bill Simmons about college recruits.
Shoe companies have a real big influence on where these kids go. So nobody wants to play in Under Armours, I'm sorry. Like, the top kids don't, because they all play Nike.
Have you talked to Steph about this?
Nah, but come on, man. Everybody knows that. They just, nobody don't want to say nothing.
Now, I'm sure that the interview was spliced together and edited. I'm sure that there was a lot more verbiage in between some of the statements that Durant made. You know that many of these media outlets, they like to take most of these athlete statements out of proper context, but still Durant should have showed a little bit better judgment, saying that his main teammate is an endorser for Under Armour. To me, that just was not wise. And yes, Nike is still the big wig. They'll probably be the king until the NBA is finished. But I mean, just if for nothing else, the Jordan trickle-down effect still permeates Nike. But that's just not something that you say when you came in and you try to take over the territory of a teammate of a guy who was a two-time MVP and is an endorser for Under Armour. I think that there's much more of a diplomatic way that he could have made that statement. But I think that he's still stuck in the euphoria of winning the championship. And he still feels like he could just say whatever he wants to say, however he wants to say it.
So the Nike sponsor Durant is now taking a shot at Under Armour. He also overshadowed Curry on the court last season. Cowherd, has Durant damaged Curry's brand?
Well, Curry's brand is shrinking, I think. First of all,
damage.
Yeah, it's damage.
Shrinkage is.
I think that Curry's brand is shrinking, but it's only because of the fact that Under Armour really, they've failed to grasp, that quote unquote urban market, which is very, very difficult to do. They're not known as a sneaker brand. They're known more as a clothing apparel sports brand.
Shrinkage isn't good.
Good point. But I think this is the downside to adding, another star to a movie, listen, you put LeBron on the Miami Heat and D Wade wasn't quite as big. And I just think this is natural. The downside of the super teams, you got to give up some shots and you got to give up some of your brand. And that's the downside of the Warriors.
You have a problem with using the word damage?
No, damage seems so severe. Curry's still a global star.
I agree. I think that that's an attempt by Whitlock to try to stir some controversy. He tried to do the same thing or something similar with Kaepernick and Cam Newton early in the season last year. And I thought that was very, very, that was very unnecessary of him to try to stir the pot to create some type of controversy between Cam Newton and Kaepernick because he was unhappy with Kaepernick's choice of protesting. There was a better way to address the Kaepernick situation rather than to try to stir up a fake antagonistic relationship between two black quarterbacks, so-called black quarterbacks. And he's trying to do the same thing now with Curry and Durant.
It's just he is not as big as he was 2 years ago.
They asked 39 NBA rookies to choose their favorite NBA player, and not one NBA rookie chose Steph Curry.
Wow.
Who gives a shit? Right? They're going to find out how good Curry is in the upcoming season.
Wow. Where did you get
39 NBA rookies.
That's good.
Not one chose Steph Curry. They picked Jamal Crawford, Dwight Howard, Carmelo Anthony.
Okay, that's damn.
Yeah, but I mean, that says a lot. I mean, you said 39 guys, none of them picked Steph Curry. I think that it would have been a little bit more telling if those players had picked John Wall and Kyrie Irving and Damian Lillard and James Harden. But when you talk about guys picking Dwight Howard and Carmelo Anthony, that's just, a bunch of young kids being airheads. I mean, who gives a shit?
Damage.
Wait. Let me ask a quick question about brands here, guys. Is jersey sales part of the brands? Is that part of you?
Yeah, sure.
Steph Curry was #1 in jersey sales last year. How about, let's see here, merchandise? What was Steph Curry last year? Any guesses? #1 in the NBA. How about endorsements? Curry was 2 to LeBron. I mean, if that stuff makes up your brand, he is still right there at the top of the
You're making
NBA.
a good point. He doesn't get I don't think he gets any money for those jerseys or merchandise. He's tied directly to the shoes, which have been a flop.
You said money. How about his contract? His new $200 million contract, highest paid player in the league? Face of Under Armour, Jim? Come on.
But that's like saying Matt
for the
Stafford because he's the highest paid quarterback. Player in the league right now. Here's my thing. With Steph, he was starting to diminish a little bit anyway before Durant, just because I think people love the adorable feature of him early on.
No. The reason why Steph has started to diminish, it started when he got hurt in the playoffs in 2016, and he was unable to come through. I said this in the past, and a couple of people in the comments may have misunderstood my statement I stated that if Steph Curry had been able to win the championship in 2016, especially in grand fashion, the cognoscenti of NBA writers and historians would have rushed to put him in the top 15, maybe even top 10 greatest all-time players. All right. I didn't say that I would have agreed with that, but they would have done that. If he would have finished off back-to-back MVP regular seasons, a unanimous MVP for the 2015-16 season, and then winning a championship in 2016, had he been able to do that, you would have had people in the media that would have tried to make a case for him being a top 10 or top 15 all-time great player. He lost a lot when he lost that championship. All right. Once again, I'm not saying that I would have agreed with that had that occurred. I'm just saying that they would have tried to do it.
Cuddly.
If you remember, ESPN had a poll where they already had him above Isaiah Thomas during the 2015-16 season.
This little guy is getting it done. Then all of a sudden.
And when I say Isaiah Thomas, I'm talking about the one from the all-time great from the Pistons. I'm not talking about the one playing with the Boston Celtics. But let me rewind back what Jim Jackson is saying so that we can get everything that he's saying in proper flow and in proper context.
To diminish a little bit anyway before Durant, just because I think people love the adorable feature of him early on. Cuddly, this little guy is getting it done. Then all of a sudden, it started to turn the corner. You know how it is in the NBA, in professional sports. First they love you, then they go start nitpicking at something. Then you add a Kevin Durant, who's almost like a transformational kind of player. It did take a little bit of the shine away. And Kevin Durant is telling the truth about the shoe companies. Even when I went to Ohio State, I wanted to make sure we had Nikes. We were playing in Adidas before then. I grew up in Nike. So I get what he's saying in regards to kids looking at it from a different perspective. But I do think Steph Curry was starting to get a little bit of backlash even before Kevin Durant came in there.
Is it?
Yeah, he was. But like I stated, the reason was, and also Golden State was starting to be perceived as a very arrogant team, which I don't know how you could not be arrogant and win 73 out of 82 games. All right. And another major aspect of it is something that I've touched on before. People invest a lot of energy in seeing other people not reach their goals. For whatever reason, it makes a certain class of people feel better about themselves. Like, okay, we're all failures now, so now I feel like less of a failure because you can sit here next to me in the dust. All right. Unfortunately, a lot of people would rather embrace the negative than the positive of pursuing their own, their own goals. So when Golden State fell short of their goal last year in the finals, a lot of people were happy about that. All right.
Is it possible the loser's Under Armour, not as much Steph?
There you go.
Now, Under Armour stock's down 40%.
They both got to lose. Steph's tied to Under Armour. He's a part of the narrative that Under Armour's going down.
Yeah.
Right, but you know what? If Under Armour really goes under, Steph can dip out with the excuse that Kevin Plank was a Donald Trump supporter, and he wants to start something fresh with Nike. Don't be surprised if that occurs. Like I stated a long time ago, I believe that he was setting up a platform or pretext to leave because he understands that Curry too has really, the mockery behind it has really hurt his overall image.
Yeah, but if Nike has a bad year of earnings, Michael Jordan's still Michael Jordan. A player can separate to some degree.
What's the difference with Under Armour? Under Armour doesn't have a lifestyle brand, okay? Adidas and Nike, if you're talking about lifestyle in the younger generation, it's all about that. When you throw on some Air Force Ones, you're going back old school. When you throw on some shell toes like I have on right now with Adidas, you're talking about a lifestyle brand. Under Armour hasn't crossed that threshold yet. They're still trying to figure out the athletic side, let alone
5 to 10 years, Jim.
What you say?
Under Armour, like 5 to. Nike's been around like 30.
No, but I'm saying when you're talking about losing market share and how you're going to dominate and play in this market, you have to start to transition over, just like Nike and Adidas did, in regards to we're just not a sports brand, we're a lifestyle brand, and that causes people to go out and really want to market and buy your products.
It is interesting, though, that we're discussing this, right? And so if we're discussing it, Kevin Durant's like everybody's talking about it. I do wonder if it will have an impact going forward with joining star teams that you will say,
Absolutely. That's what I already mentioned. All right, especially if you have guys that are going to continue to talk reckless like Kevin Durant. Is why I said his statement was very irresponsible. You have to be careful when you say things like that, because now you're going to have guys who are signed to Adidas or signed to Reebok or, whatever. And they're going to say, you know what? I'm not going to sign with him because he's with another sneaker company. I mean, you don't really want that type of a factor affecting team chemistry and, little frivolous things like that. I mean, if you're a marquee player and you're with a marquee shoe company, I mean, you let the sales speak for themselves. You don't have to come out and slam another sneaker company. I mean, that's just silly. And let me say this. That has kind of happened before. Not with guys who were on necessarily who were on rival teams before, but guys who were on the same team. If you guys have ever seen the documentary that was done on the Orlando Magic, when ESPN did their 30 for 30, they revealed how the relationship between Shaq and Penny dissolved. And a lot of it had to do with jealousy that Shaq had for Penny. Remember, Penny was signed to Nike and Shaq was signed to Reebok. And Nike came up with the brilliant ad campaign for Penny Hardaway called The Little Penny, where, Penny had the little puppet voiced by Chris Rock. And Penny started to get a lot of attention. And Shaq was always a jealous dude. We saw a lot of the jealousy come out with Kobe when he went to L.A. Shaq couldn't deal with a lot of the attention that Penny was getting over his sneaker, and he started to make little comments, little jokes that were really just veiled how he really felt, and that led to him leaving Orlando and going to the Lakers. All right, so I mean, this has happened before.
People are watching the Under Armour stock go down. So all these other shoe companies are like, are they going to have the influence to say, Chris Paul, you're not going to go play with LeBron? Will this have a reverb
Look,
effect?
I'm going to go a step further and wonder if Under Armour isn't going to try to exercise some influence over Steph Curry
And move him.
at some point and say, look, man, we're paying you more than the Golden State Warriors. We're paying you more than anybody to sell these shoes. And it's hard to sell these shoes when Kevin Durant is so much better than you.
And is ripping you.
And that's the media narrative. First off, Kevin Durant is not so much better than Steph Curry. Kevin Durant has his mental IQ has augmented since he's gotten to Golden State, and it's really because of the magnanimity of Steph Curry that has allowed him to really blossom as a player. Hopefully he understands that, and the people who watch the NBA game and understand what's going on the floor understand that, because Steph Curry could easily be selfish and say, and I don't want you on my team. Right? He easily could have not shown up for that recruiting party to bring Durant in if that really was what he was about. So no, Kevin Durant is not miles and leaps above Steph Curry. He is above Steph Curry just because physically his dimensions are just so much greater than Steph's. But it's not like Steph just looks at him like, oh man, he's a god of basketball. I'm just, I'm an ant in his sight. I mean, come on.
Seriously. And so I could see Under Armour asking us to, maybe you sell more shoes out of Charlotte with Michael Jordan.
Well, they damn sure are not going to tell him to go to Charlotte if he's trying to sell Under Armour. Because Michael Jordan's like the ogre of Nike. Michael Jordan's not going, if he's going to bring Steph in, it's not going to be to help promote Under Armour. That's for damn sure.
Didn't Curry just have the greatest finals of his career, 26, 9, and 8? I mean, he was tremendous in the finals. He's got 2 rings, 2 MVPs.
And you're the
Guys,
only one that bought
I am the president of the Steph Curry fan club.
That's not gonna sell shoes because the shoes are not attractive. They're not cool.
It's just a slight.
I agree with that. That's a major problem. Kyrie's sneakers are much better looking than Steph's. I think that Steph needs to find a way to get out of there and go to Nike.
Slice
But
the whole brand.
but that's what we're talking about. But what Under Armour? What do you have? Football and basketball.
And baseball, Bryce Harper.
Football and basketball. Okay, football and basketball. That's what's going to really sell. You gonna go out and sell some cleats that you can wear around in the street? No, you can't.
But
You can't do
the
it.
bigger story is Kevin Durant just ripped Under Armour.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. That's what they need to concentrate on. That's that's kind of almost unprecedented. I can't remember an athlete doing that to that degree. I mean, I'm sure that it's been done, but I just cannot remember it offhand. I remember when Kobe first came into the league, he first was with Adidas, and then eventually he went to Nike. I think he went to Adidas initially because he probably did not want to be perceived as a guy who was trying to jump on the Jordan bandwagon. Now, I remember ESPN had a good feature about the great Nike recruiter. I'm trying to remember his name. I believe his name was Sonny. He's an Italian dude, Sonny something. I can't remember his name, but he helped recruit Jordan to Nike, LeBron. He was trying to get Kobe. He was working with T-Mac. But I believe that Kobe probably went to Adidas just to be a little bit different. And then he just realized the error of his ways. Nike is the best when it comes to making sneakers. I mean, there's no doubt about that. And I think that Steph also needs to learn from that. Oh, Sonny Vaccaro, that's his name. Sonny Vaccaro. That's his name. Yeah, that's the guy who's involved with a lot, or was involved with a lot of the recruiting for Nike all throughout the 70s, 80s, and 90s. But Steph is going to end up having to make that move because I don't think that Under Armour is ever going to be able to grab a big enough piece of the shoe apparel piece of the pie for him to be as big as he can be in regards to that aspect of his sponsorships.
Under Armour represents Steph Curry. You don't think they called Steph Curry? To your point, listen, we know that if you're Jim Harbaugh at Michigan or you're the new coach at Texas, there are boosters you answer to. Okay, you tick off the wrong booster, you can be out of a job at Ohio State or Alabama or Auburn. Bottom line is, Under Armour heard those comments. We're talking about those comments. This is a discussion now with Steph and Under Armour.
What do you think it leads to?
Well, I'm just saying.
New location for Steph.
Oh, come on. Yeah, let's get him to Charlotte. Yeah, let's go.
Eventually, he was a better attraction without Kevin Durant.
He's not
Well, he was a great attraction without Kevin Durant, but you also have to understand the system that he plays in is very conducive to him being a spectacular player, right? If he goes into another system, any system that Steph Curry plays in, he's going to be a great player. But certain systems really maximize your overall potential. And the one that he plays in Golden State really does, especially when he's surrounded by all those other shooters.
Kyrie. He's
was
not
he a
Kyrie
better
Irving.
attraction without?
No,
without
now
Kevin
there's
Durant?
one of the most best dynasties in NBA history. That's much better than just winning 67
Well, potentially, in order to be considered a dynasty, they have to win at least 2 more.
games.
Steph feels to me smaller today than 2 years ago.
Feels damaged, doesn't it?
Coming up.
I wouldn't say that Steph is necessarily smaller. I think that a lot of that is wishful thinking. I think that whenever people see somebody with that spotless an image as Curry has with the family and the smile and the kids and all that other shit, these so-called Christian beliefs, I think that people tend to want to find chinks in the armor because it makes them feel better about their own faults. But anyway, I still think that KD made an error. I think that when he has the chance, he should try to smooth things over with Curry, as if he's smart. But we'll see what happens. Peace.